Baby, I'm dancing in the dark with you between my arms, barefoot on the grass, listening to our favorite song. When you said you looked a mess, I whispered underneath my breath. You heard it, telling you look perfect tonight.
Damn, bro.
Straight from the fields, straight from the fields.
I've got goosebumps. That. I got no hair on my arm, but I've got you can see them coming up.
Prickles only.
Well, Peter, we got to hang out this past weekend. Talk to me about the past weekend. Give us a quick recap of what Friday and Saturday was like.
Bro, I felt like this entire weekend was just like an entire blur, man. But yeah, your boy is officially legally married in the state of Florida. But yeah, it was a blast. We had our elopement send off party Friday, got everyone together, people coming into town, had that bonfire on the beach.
Bonfire was sick.
Yeah,
Oh
all the
man.
vibes. Got some great pizza there. Yeah, and just really got an opportunity to connect with people that I hadn't seen in super long time.
Screw that pizza, bro. Fresh coconuts. On they were cutting coconuts on the beach, putting rum in there. That was baller.
Yeah, Emerald Coast vibes, man.
Yeah, and then oh man, I got a little sick the day of the elopement party. Friday was the beach, the bonfire, and then Saturday. I kid you not, it was the biggest steak I think I've ever seen served at like a party, and I was just so upset because I was just like, I can't eat this right now.
I was actually very impressed because I had multiple people say the steak was like like tasted phenomenal. But to serve that amount of like number of like medium rare steaks in such a short period of time, I was like, man, they had that shit dialed in.
It was the only. I was literally looking at Raph. I was like, "Yo, bro, I'm so pissed because it's actually cooked well." Like, I took like 3 bites, and I was like, "I can't. Like, it's not going to pass well."
Yeah. But yeah, Saturday was awesome, man. Had that 5K in the morning. And then yeah, and then party in the evening. It was the first time in quite a while that I had quite a few drinks. So I was definitely feeling it on Sunday, but back at it, man. It was a blast. I had a great time.
Yeah, we went to this place called AJ's. I don't even know what to make of it. It literally looked like, oh man, there was a
A
bunch of random.
compilation of just like bunch of random people. So AJ's was the only bar over in 30A that was open past 10 p.m. So naturally, you had all a bunch of parties, all a bunch of different people, yeah, kind of gather in this
College
one dive
kids,
bar. Yeah,
locos, degenerates. I know,
I
a little bit of everything.
I walked in, I was like, damn, this smells like undergrad.
It smells horrendous. Oh gosh, but no, I was just so happy to be back in bed, bro. Like be back at home. It was a long trip. We were at Disney, then we drove out to Santa Rosa Beach to celebrate Peter and Catherine. We had like the earliest flight delays. Got back, had to drive to Jersey City, pick up Oliver. I woke up at like 3 a.m. I didn't sleep, or like essentially didn't get back home until like 4 p.m. And I was like, this is
Damn,
brutal. But we locked in, full night of sleep with a little bit of sushi. And we're good to go.
hell yeah. Is that your go-to kind of like recovery food? Is sushi or I know for me, I think it's either got to be like some sort of pho or some sort of like ramen, man. Got to get the broth in, low carb, low protein.
Yeah, I usually go with pho. So when we ordered sushi, I ordered a thing of udon and I ate sushi on top of it. But Christy and I, it's like whenever we travel, the first meal back when we get home is like we just order sushi. It's super simple. It's fairly clean, right? Like you eat sushi, you don't even
Yeah.
feel like, unless you're going to a buffet, like you feel pretty good after eating it. And the spot near us is super cheap. It's like 15 pieces of sashimi, 15 pieces of sushi, 3 rolls, and you get it for $70.
Damn. Is
That's pretty
that
solid.
is that one of their what do they call it? Like Love Boat Deluxe. You know what I'm talking about?
Sushi and sashimi for two. But dude, that spot, we know the bartenders, we know the wait staff. Like they always hook it up. But yeah, the color of sushi, if you think about it, majority of it's black and white. And I think most of the time that's how people see things, right? It's black and white, right or wrong. And, Peter and I were trying to think about, like, what should we talk about today? And I think some of the things we're going to talk about is, when people post business advice, I think they try to post things that are very black and white. This
Mhm.
is right and this is wrong. But I think it lacks a little bit more nuance than that. Peter, you wanna start us up?
Yeah, for sure, man. So there was a post floating around in social media maybe like a week or two ago, and the title of the post was, "Hey, like red flags in cash-based physical therapy," right? And a couple of the things that were said was like, "Hey, not having prices on your website, that's a red flag." Second red flag was, hey, no way to schedule online. You have to give your contact information slash fill out a form first to talk to somebody. The third red flag was massively discounted initial evaluations to get you in the door. And then the fourth red flag was first few sessions are built around expensive package sales. And I was waiting to, kind of hear a little bit more about some context behind it, because for us this is exactly the exact opposite of everything that we're doing. And I think on this podcast we'll kind of expound a little bit more as to the context as to why we have things set up a certain way, right? There's always a reason, but it's just always, I'm very curious to hear, hey, what are the main reasons as to why this specific company has these things set up, and why they feel like these having these specific actions are considered quote quote red flags, right? But anyways, if the whole point of the post was to generate some sort of traction, get the people riled up, get the people talking, I think that definitely did its job. But yeah, I think we can kind of just kind of hit it one by one, and give some context as to why we have it a certain kind of way. But I don't think there is a right or wrong way to do it. I think depending on where you're at in the country, and how you have things set up with your practice, at the end of the day, you guys can do whatever you want, man. But let's chat about the first one, man. Not having prices on your website. Andy, do you guys have prices on your website? If so, why or why not, man?
No, I don't. We don't have prices on our website because I think
Bro, that's a red flag. Walking red flag. I'm just kidding.
um, there's a couple of things, right? I think it's just the initial, like, I don't want to say the initial shock effect, but there's no context behind a price.
Mhm.
Sure, you could put like a couple of like little diagram and things like that up front, but I think some people will. There's people that are always price shopping, and those are people that we don't necessarily want to track, right? So we always say like 20% of people are ready to buy no matter what, 20% of people will never buy no matter what, and then there's the 60% where they're kind of on the fence. And our goal is to make sure that, like, we can really get to understand someone's problem first and show that we can deliver value before even asking this person to come in. And I think people now make such split judgments. They look at a website 1 second, boom, okay, that's it. You don't even get a chance to kind of show how you're different, right? And I think when your price is on the website, they just see the price and then boom, they don't like crawl the website any further. They don't try to like take a deeper dive. Now, that's not to say that like showing your price is a bad thing, right? Like, I think at scale, when you become a really big brand, it just makes sense to be able to book immediately. But when you're a smaller brand and people don't know much about you, I think there is a benefit of not having the price on the website, because then you can get on a call, start to explain why you're different, why the price is going to be different. But yeah, I know practices that do over, like 50 million in revenue, and their prices on a website. But when you're at that scale, you've got 200 plus therapists. It's like you've done enough marketing and branding that people understand why you're different. But when you're smaller, you really you need as much, you need that person to spend as much time on your content as possible, or listen to you as much as possible. But how do you feel on that, Peter?
Yeah, I agree with everything that you say, man. I think a lot of times people will try and convey, a ton of value and a ton of information on their website, but no matter in my opinion, no matter how much information you put on the website, or how much visuals or videos or information, it will never be as well communicated as if versus like a full on full blown conversation of you talking to them over the phone, where you can actually explain, hey, what are the differences between cash pay physical therapy versus insurance physical therapy, right? You'd be surprised. Like on our website, man, like on the first page, we have in big giant letters like, hey, we don't take insurance. Like here are the differences between insurance physical therapy and then traditional, and then cash pay physical therapy, and what sets us apart. And bro, like we still have people calling in asking if we take insurance, man. And so it's like, you'd be surprised at the amount of people who just like take a glance at your website, look at the first thing, and then they immediately see price and like, all right, cool. Don't take anything else into context, right? But especially like when physical cash pay physical therapy is still like fairly new, not that many people are well educated on it. You're gonna have a much better shot of being able to convey the value of it, of providing that person with as much information over a real 10 to 15 minute phone conversation with that person versus then just put everything up and it's like, hey, like if you want to book, go ahead and book.
Yeah. And also, Peter, yo, dude, I'm on your website after you said that. You got to change that little Google stamp, man. It says over 200 5-star reviews. It should say over 400.
True. Gotta
Right?
update it, man.
What you're doing is a red flag. So, no, not to be super
It's all
cheeky
good.
about
Yeah. What do we know? We only have 400 5-star
it.
good.
um, I think I think a red flag would be not being very specific with what the pricing looks like,
Hmm?
right? Like a red flag is like you get on a call with someone and like someone says, well, what's the pricing? And you say, it varies. Like, can you just provide concrete numbers? And if you do, good for you. But if you just keep swinging someone along, and then you do your eval, and you're like, oh, by the way, it's a $500 eval, and at no point you told them what the session rate was going to be, what package rates could be. Because again, people get on a call with us, we tell them exactly what the rates are going to be after we've listened to their problem, after we kind of show them like potentially what we can do to help them. Right? It's not like, oh, we're not going to disclose the price and we're gonna like do some weird sketchy techniques. It's like after the call, we tell people what it looks like, and then from there, they come in or they don't come in. Right? There's no like forcefulness or anything like that. And to me, like having a price on the website, having it off the website, it's completely up to you. I've seen more and more businesses scale and grow with prices off of the website than actually on the website. But this is one of those things where you might as well split test. I won't say that like we are right out of nowhere, but you can split test, right? You can take a 3 to 6 month block where you just put pricing on a website and people can, kind of book automatically. And you can take another 3 to 6 month block where they don't do it and see what happens. Um, but I'll always kind of think about it from one principle: shop the way you like, sell the way you buy. And for me, like no matter what, I will look at price typically, right?
Mhm.
So sometimes that's almost to a fault. I think there are times like in my life where I look at a price, I'm like, ooh, that's too expensive, but it's actually the thing I needed. And it would have been better if I just booked a call. So like I always think about it from that lens, sell the way you buy. If I'm actually interested in their service, I want to get to know the other person really, really well before doing it. That's like saying like every single accountant that doesn't list their prices on their website, that's a red flag. There's a ton of service industries right now that don't list their prices, and it's okay. The service industries that typically do list their prices are usually acquired by like private equity, right? And like they're just priced priced at a very specific range. They've probably done a lot of split testing and know that this is what happens. And they probably don't want to hire anyone else or do any of the sales ops stuff because that would increase the overhead. So there's just so many different models. I think it's just hard to say that this is a red flag.
Yeah, and I'll give you a good example. Like my accountant, when I first found him, like he was just like, dude, I don't really know what you want or what you would need. Like come in, like we'll have a full on 1 hour analysis on, what you're looking to do, and then I'll provide you with a couple different options, right? And so he went in, consultation was free. And then yeah, he basically showed me all the different like pricing options that you would have from, all inclusive, super high touch points, tax saving strategies you meet maybe on a monthly basis to something that's more hands off. And I think with physical therapy a lot of times it's very similar as well too, right? We maybe have someone coming in, maybe they're going to be doing a lot of travel, and maybe they would be a better fit for maybe more of a hybrid or asynchronous remote programming option because they're traveling so much. Other times, maybe they're going to be in town only for a very short period of time, and maybe they want like, hey, 2 or 3 touch points in a week to come in before transitioning out. And so a lot of times, I know for us, like we basically kind of give people just like a giant range, and we'll let them know, hey, like a lot of times we don't really know what you'll need until we actually do like a thorough assessment, and it could range between XYZ or XYZ. And we've even, I would say, a really good example of this would be, I would say in like the last 2 months, we've had two separate instances of people coming in just for the initial evaluation, and we immediately, like after the eval, our PTs referred them out because both of them had red flags for stress fractures. And so, but it's like we wouldn't have been able to tell them, hey, like your plan of care with us after is going to be $0 because we're not going to need to see it, right? Had we not actually, had them come in. But for us, we kind of, yeah, on the phone, we'll give them kind of like a range. And then definitely on the intake forms, we give them, hey, like this is all of our different pricing. And, it's multiple different options based on, hey, like what they would be a better fit for. So I definitely think, hey, people should know what pricing is, when they do come in. I think a lot of times at the very beginning, we've played around with not having them, not giving them at least a general idea of like what pricing is. And then they come in, it's like a giant sticker shock. And then of course you're going to have to deal with, oh, let me think about it. Let me go talk to my spouse. Let me check finances, right? Or sometimes if they come in with like a general idea of like what pricing potentially might look like, cool. Maybe they have that conversation with their spouse before they come in and they're actually ready to, make some sort of purchase if it is like a good fit moving forward.
Yeah, and there's like at the end of the day, everyone else is making their own decision. You know what I mean? Like, and as long as they know what the pricing is, like you're not doing anything like super sleazy.
Mhm.
And think about it like this: like I got my nose cauterized, right? After like jujitsu stuff, my nose was constantly bleeding for like 4 hours. I went to an ENT
Does it smell like barbecue?
doc. Yeah, that was the ENT doc. Freaking was burning, cauterizing my nose. Like, bro, this shit smells like Korean barbecue. And I'm like, this fucking guy is fucking racist. Um, but basically, like, I had no idea what the cost was going to be,
Yeah.
right? It's not like they listed the cost of like, oh, this is what it's going to be like if you cauterize your nose, $2,000. This is going to be the cost if you get XYZ surgery. Like, no other healthcare professional is listing what the prices are,
Mm.
right? Like, this isn't like, and again, I'm only providing a caveat. I do believe that there are models where it does make sense to just list your prices, but to say that it's a red flag and making a claim like that, I think it's just missing a little bit of nuance. And when you look at other industries, even out of network providers, it's the same exact thing, right?
Yeah, I was on a buddy's like they own a gym right around us, and I went on their website the other day, and same thing, like any kind of request for information, whether it's on pricing, schedule, or anything else. Hey, like fill out this form, and we'll go ahead and provide that thing over to you, right? And so I think that leads us nicely into the next red flag that they were talking about, right? No way to schedule online. You have to give your contact information slash fill out a form first to talk to someone.
Listen, there are people that I talk to on a phone, and it's good that I talk to them on a phone because they needed to see someone ASAP.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if someone schedules, because like pretty much you have to book a week in advance for most of like there's if you call on a Monday or Tuesday, you're probably not going to be able to get in immediately. You might be able to get in on Thursday or Friday, but like you probably need to go in a week in advance if you're a very particular time here in New York. Some people are like, hey, I can only be seen this time. Like you're going to need to tell us in advance. But there are times where I'm like, Christy will listen to someone on the phone. It's like, holy cow, you need to go to urgent care right now. Or like, hey, you need to see XYZ specialist. Do you need a recommendation? We have people that we know. So if that same exact person, for instance, had a week where they couldn't see another medical provider, right? Because they just booked online, you might have just missed the potential of helping somebody in that lens. So that's happened multiple times. Like someone was rushed to a surgery. Another time we had to just get this cleared out because it sounded so suspicious, like potentially a DVT. And like these are just like conversations on the phone. And granted, it's Christy doing the discovery call, right? So she is someone that's well versed in like red flags, differential diagnosis, but that's still something that you can start to onboard and like screen with your front desk. Hey, like, can you put weight on this? Oh, you can't put any weight on this. Oh, well, you should probably have you seen an orthopedist? Oh, you haven't? Then like, okay, let's refer you to someone that we know. But I don't think getting on collecting someone's email is necessarily a bad thing. I think nowadays people are just so like, oh my gosh, my privacy, my email, you're tracking everything. It's really not that serious. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's so overblown. And if you do feel that type of way, I hope you're using something like Mozilla Firefox. I hope you're using a web browser that doesn't track anything, right? Because if you care about an email being collected, but you're not doing all the other things in the background, it doesn't really make sense. Your actions aren't aligning.
Yeah, I think, I mean, to a certain extent, you basically, if you're running any kind of like SEO or, paid ads, like that's basically information that you've already paid for. So you might as well try and capitalize on it, right? But I think when it comes to something as intimate as like physical therapy, right, where it's one on one, I know for us, a lot of times we'll have people call and they want to know a little bit more about the provider first, through that conversation with the receptionist, right? Like, yeah, we all have our bios listed on there. But again, a lot of times people just want that additional touch point just to make sure, hey, if I'm going to be paying XYZ for a certain eval, like I want to make sure this person is the right fit. I honestly think it's kind of lazy, right? If people can just go ahead and schedule without, you taking the time to do like a quick 10 to 15-minute conversation just to learn a little bit more about their stories. I think that's actually one of the very great benefits of our model is people get that additional layer of touch point, that connection with other humans where they get to tell the receptionist a little bit more about their stories. We've had so many people, I'm sure you guys hear the same way, where after the initial discovery call, they're like, wow, you guys are the first like physical therapy clinic that I called that I talked to that actually, asked me a little bit more about what was going on instead of just asking what my insurance number was and like when they could schedule me. Like it actually shows that, hey, you guys actually care a little bit more. Right. And so same thing, I think that probably is very similar with that, right? It's like, hey, no, you can't talk to us. Like if you want to schedule, go ahead and schedule and here's a link for it and go do it. If not, then that's fine. Right? But I think having an additional layer of touch point just to be able to connect with them on a deeper human connection level it goes a very, very long way.
Yeah, I do like the point that you said is so true because like consumers are just becoming more educated now, right? So like
Mhm.
people want as much information as possible. And honestly, like sometimes people's websites are hard to navigate, right? And
Yeah.
like information's a little bit everywhere. So like some people just don't want to actually navigate a website. They just want to call. They just want to set up a call and learn directly from another human being. Because there are times where like you look at someone's website and it's like there's just a lot of fluff. Like I just want to go straight to the source. I have specific questions and I want someone else on the other side to answer them. And I think when you have like all of these things, quote unquote, automated, and I was listening to a podcast by this guy that he runs like 10 different companies and he uses global talent instead of AI. And
Mm.
the reason why he says he doesn't use AI yet, he's like, a lot of these AI tools are shit. Like if I need someone, if someone comes in and they need this specific service and they need to book at this very specific time, I don't want to rely on tools. I need another human being that can make these decisions quickly. I'm reducing these barriers, right? So if a barrier to someone committing to working with you is just having some questions answered, what are you gonna do? Email back and forth? We know that takes forever. What are you gonna
Yeah.
use a chatbot? The chatbot can help, but like everyone at the end of the day wants to talk to another human being about it.
Yeah. It's the fastest form of communication. It's something that I harp on tremendously with our front desk. A lot of times, if people like text in or email in a question, our like first protocol is to always call them first because the amount of time that you can save just by having a quick, 30-second, 1 minute conversation with them to be able to help them triage whether it's rescheduling another appointment or answering a specific question on insurance or whatever, right? That can be hashed out so much faster, like via voice to voice. And when you do answer that question, there may be some, additional questions they may immediately have afterwards. Also, too, I think sometimes over text and email, sometimes things can be taken out of context, right? Where you may mean it a certain way, but it comes off completely different, like from the other person on the other side of the screen. So I think, yeah, but at the end of the day, like humans want human connection, man. Got to have that initial phone call.
Yeah. We are running our ads, and someone's like, "Hey, I clicked on the link. It's asking me to submit my email. There's no like way to download. I'm like, oh yeah, you submit your email and then you can download it. And then he was kind of apprehensive, and I'm like, all right, that's perfectly fine. You don't get it. Like that's it.
Yeah.
Like, it's
It's just our
I,
process here, man. It's like, yeah.
yeah, like straight up, like if we collect the email and then you don't ever want to hear from us again, it's not like I'm handcuffing you to like read our newsletter. Like just unsubscribe,
Yeah.
right? Like, is it a red flag when a company, maybe you're shopping at J. Crew, it's like, hey, you want 20% off your first purchase? By the way, you got to give this email. Ooh, red flag. It's
Just
so
give me the 20%, right? Like,
yeah. Like, how many times have you signed up with an email and then you just unsubscribed?
yeah.
Just move on. You're not handcuffing anyone to anything, right? And I think people, same thing with newsletters. People are like, "Oh, I'm so nervous to send a newsletter every single week. I'm going to be so invasive and intrusive." They can just unsubscribe. You're
Yeah.
not holding any. There's one person that I subscribed to that they didn't have an unsubscribe button. I literally had to report them. I was like, "This is ridiculous." But most people have an email that gets sent out to you, and you can just unsubscribe. But that mindset of like, oh, I'm just filling up someone's clutter and stuff like that. We have so many patients that come up to us and say, hey, I love your emails.
Yeah.
Like, I love the updates. I love seeing what you guys are doing. It's so exciting. I'm so happy for you guys.
Yeah. Especially when the information and that you guys are providing to them on a weekly basis is something that's of value and it's something that they are interested in, right? Something related to health, fitness, pain, right? People are most likely going to want to hear that information. They'll want to continue to stay on. And like exactly with what Andy said, if they aren't interested anymore, right? Cool. Now I can unsubscribe. But I think, yeah, for us, well, we've just seen so many benefits of people just continuing to get nurtured month over month, year after year. Maybe they don't convert immediately from the lead to initial evaluation from, that first time they opted in or the first time that they, had that conversation with our front desk. But 2, 3 years later, as they continue to see more and more stories of, other people dealing with their similar situations that they are dealing with. All right, cool. Maybe now I'm finally ready to take that next step. And have we not had, whether it's their email or text or sorry, their phone number so that we could text and call them to follow up with, like we would never been able to be in an opportunity or position to be able to help them when they finally are ready to be helped. Right? And so I think marketing just comes down to, hey, who can be the most persistent in terms of, being there whenever the person is ready to be helped.
I love that, man. Because, like, and people are like, oh my gosh, we have a 2 year drip sequence, right? For people that don't
Yeah.
commit to working with us. And it's just a slow drip of emails that starts to educate people on how we're different, the importance of strength training, the importance, like different aspects of pain, all of these things, why you might be failing rehab elsewhere. And if people don't find value in those emails, unsubscribe. But you know what? We have a lot of people that reactivate and say, "Hey, I've been reading your emails, and I've tried other places, and it makes a ton of sense. Like what you're saying is exactly what I've been looking for." Because one of the hardest people to sell to is people that haven't had physical therapy before, right?
Mhm.
It's kind of like I can't tell you like it's hard to rate pizza if you only had one pizza. Like pizza's so hard to fuck up that all kinds of pizza tastes great. And then you go
Yeah.
to like Naples and you're like, holy shit, okay, this is a different tier of pizza. Same thing with physical therapy. You haven't seen physical therapy yet. Most physical therapists are super personable, very type A, very welcoming. But then you realize that like you get the same bullshit exercises and you go somewhere else. It's like, wow, this is what it really is all about.
Yeah.
So that doesn't happen until like
Till they actually
it's
walk in the door.
till they
Right.
actually walk in the door and there's no and they can't walk through the door unless marketing occurs.
Yeah.
And if marketing is illegal or if it's a red flag, it's not like it's being shoved into someone's face. Any kind of marketing that you're experiencing right now, you can easily say, I am not interested if you're on Instagram. You can easily unsubscribe if you're through email. So don't feel like you're forcing anyone's hand. And honestly, if someone ever reaches out to you like, oh my gosh, I'm being so annoyed by this, you got to think, what is this person's internal state? They decided to hit reply on an email, make you feel really bad, right? That person's probably never going to work with you and you probably don't ever want to work with them. So some of those things you just can't even take personally.
I think that transitions very, very nicely into this next red flag. It's like you've done this a couple times before, Andy. Massively discounted initial evaluations to get you in the door. So before you're talking about, hey, a lot of times people have never experienced physical therapy before, right? And so a lot of times, if they hear, hey, like price of evals 350, 400, right? Like, why the hell should I pay this in order to actually even get an initial evaluation with, XYZ expert? Now, I think if all of your new evaluations, right, are all word of mouth or people who already know you or are referred by friends and family, then yeah, 100% you can charge whatever the hell you want. People will pay that because, they already know, like, and trust you. But at scale, right, when you are advertising into cold traffic, you're running, ads and all that, people coming in, like, one of the first things I think, on that marketing article that we were, maybe it was a couple months you sent over, Andy, right, where it's talking about, hey, what are one of the first deciding factors of people deciding to work with a service-based, business? And one of the leading indicators is, I think it's like other social proof, right, or the reviews of other strangers. The second one is just price, like straight up price. And a lot of times, like, if people don't know the difference between physical therapy, insurance based versus cash based, like, the only thing they know is the difference between the price, and one takes insurance and the other doesn't, then how the hell, right, are we able to actually provide them and show them the difference between the two? And it goes back to exactly what you were saying before. Hey, a lot of times a lot of physical therapists are actually super personable. They're super relatable. They were able to provide tremendous results, but we won't be able to have the opportunity to actually showcase that if people don't actually even walk in the door. Right. And so for us, like, we intentionally run like these low barrier offers, like these discounted initial evaluations, so that people can actually get in the door and see what the difference is between, cash pay physical therapy versus insurance physical therapy. Even if you don't want to do a discounted, might as well just make it free, right? Like, make it free, let people come in. It's basically what people call like a taster session, right? Or kind of like some sort of freebie, just to kind of get people engaged and actually be able to be willing to test out your stuff and give it a shot, and so that you can show them, hey, like, how are we different? What are your thoughts on this, man?
Yeah, that it's a Clavio. So Clavio does like a yearly like marketing report. And again, this is scanning multiple businesses in multiple industries that are generating way more money than us. They have an obscene amount of data. And one of the things that influences buying decision is social proof, which is why we always put a system around, getting reviews and testimonials. But the other thing Peter said was pricing, right? Like some people will make a decision, okay, like what's the harm, right? The same thought process when you go to an Orange Theory, it's like, what is it? Like the first week is free. F45, the
Mhm.
first week is free. People go into like these semi-private gyms. I know a couple of friends that own really successful semi-private training gyms, and it's like the first week of semi-private training is $99, and it's nowhere near the amount that you'll pay within a month. It might be about like 20 to 30% of that, but all of these things are giving people an idea of how their current situation might potentially change, right? It's so hard to figure out what's the right fit for someone when they don't even get to experience differences. So your goal should be to get people through the door, because marketing is way easier when you can actually get someone to see, feel, and touch the product. And a product is physical therapy, right? So how is someone cueing me? How is someone communicating with me? How is someone listening to my story? All of these things can't happen over the phone. To a degree, some of those elements can, but that full experience of like, do I believe that this is going to help me get out of the pain that I've been dealing with for 5, 10, 15, 20 years? Based off this first experience, I do now, and I'm more committed. It's another thing to like collect the credit card and like, oh yeah, no matter what, if you don't say that you're not going to continue, then you're just going to be charged $200. Like, yeah, I think that's a red flag, right? Like that's
Mhm.
just like super sleazy. But nothing ever gets charged unless the person says, yes, I commit to working with you.
Yeah.
There's certain companies where it's like, hey, free trial, but if you don't unsubscribe within 14 days and you're going to get charged our yearly thing of $500. And even then they put that up front. So if you get charged $500, it's your fault because you didn't unsubscribe, like, but those are just tactics that I personally wouldn't do because again, it's sell the way you buy. I hate that.
Yeah. It's a lot of friction, man. I think you really need to have a ton of rapport and trust, like, you know, before people are willing to pay that much, even just to come in for like an initial evaluation. A lot of times people don't even, like, I feel like physical therapy already has like a pretty bad rep within kind of just like the overall social context of things, right? Like, people have so many different modalities to be that can potentially help them, right? They have kairos, massage, they got pills, they got freaking Instagram, YouTube, right? And so it's already a barrier to get them to even want to try physical therapy. And then let alone once they do feel like, hey, all right, I need to try physical therapy. Now they're researching stuff and now they have the options of, okay, hey, like here's insurance physical therapy, a place that does take my insurance, right? It could be potentially free or maybe like a lower copay. And here's another practice, right? And so a lot of times it's so hard to be able to convey how we're different until they actually step in the door. Yeah, I've thought multiple times before of like, hey, making just making our initial evaluations free, just because I know literally once they get in the door, our PTs are able to provide so much value and benefit for them that they can see like, hey, wow, I really can tell how you guys are different than traditional physical therapy. But this is only if they've had traditional physical therapy, right? A lot of times if people haven't had it before, they come in, it's like, oh wow, this is like a great experience, but they don't know what the other side is like, and potentially they want to try that out, right? Which is totally fine. But I think the only way that, or one of the easier ways to get people to actually want to try out your stuff is if you don't have such high friction and resistance to them wanting to try out your stuff in the first place. And one of the best ways to do that is to have a lower barrier entry, a low barrier offer. And again, like you guys can test it out, right? Like you guys can do, you know, $25 eval, $99 eval, 50% off, or you can even charge full price, man. Like you guys are booked out and you're crushing it. Like I know many, like two provider clinics where it's just two providers and they're, very, very well known. Everyone in the community knows them and they're just booked out and they charge full price, which is totally fine. People will come in and pay that, right? Because everyone has already heard about them. There's a lot of really goodwill within the community, right? But if you're newer and like you're in an area that nobody knows you, you try and charge like full price, like you might have a hard time getting people in the door. And the last thing you want to do when your schedule's empty as shit is to add even more friction to that, right?
Yeah, the it's not to say that, like, again, like we did a route where we offered a discounted rate and we had a lot of terrible leads come through the door. Now we're running our ads and we're not offering any discounted rate. We're collecting a deposit for the first session so that there's a good show up rate. But you just try things,
Mhm.
and I think that's the main like goal of like what we're trying to say is like instead of saying something is right or wrong, just try it and see if it works for you. Because if you say like, "Oh, this is a red flag," then why is it working for so many people? You know, there. If it was a red flag, you wouldn't see so many practices utilizing some of these things. Other things I see, it's like I see this guy. It's like, oh, it's a red flag to be doing like outbound DM, right? Like DM setting. But I think Dylan crushed like 30K within like with us the second
Yeah.
month. And he's like, hey, I did a lot of outbound DMs and that worked. Um, I'm so agnostic to the the tactics. I care more about the strategy. Like, do you understand what marketing is? Marketing is like holding someone's hand, answering their questions, building a ton of trust, and positioning yourself as an expert. You can do that in so many different ways. You can do that through an ad. You can do that through DMs. You can do that through Instagram content. Our goal isn't to do it through one way. We do a bunch of different ways. Do 10 different ways of marketing. You're going to find two things that work really well. Then you go ham on those two things. And that's how you start to exponentially grow your clinic. So instead of like hearing a lot of people talk like, oh, don't do this, don't do that. Have you tried it for yourself yet? There's people that say cold calling sucks, but I literally work with someone that does cold calling and he's generated millions for a software company through cold calling, right? So everything works in the right context. And sometimes you're not in that context, so you got to try something new.
You know what I think it is, man? I think a lot of PTs think that they are holier than thou and they aren't willing to get like down and dirty, right? But if we think about it at the end of the day, who if our main goal is to be able to help as many people as possible, like which clinic is going to be able to help more people? The clinic who allows a lower barrier of entry for people to come in by having maybe potentially a lower discounted eval, or the one who charges like super high prices and like people just look at that and they're like, hey, I don't even want to try them out. Same thing with like feeling sleazy with marketing emails to people who opt in right onto your website. Can we continue to nurture and get in front of all these people so that we're ultimately at the end of the day able to help more people out? And that's why I think a lot of people have to understand is like at the end, like what we're selling is a snake oil. We are literally selling transformations that provide tremendous outcomes for people. And so we should have no shame about marketing and selling something that can help people out tremendously.
And again, there's a ton of people that I respect that say something similar, right? Like all the things that were pointed out as red flags. There's people that I respect that, truly live by it. Like you can book a consultation with them and the prices are there, etc. But I just don't like I'm not gonna tell them that they're right or wrong. I just don't believe in these strong
Yeah.
statements, especially when you look at multiple other industries, just seeing what's happening as a whole. What you're going to realize is people that are really good in business are just going to be good in business regardless of wherever they are. You could be fucking selling hot dogs or selling physical therapy. Like if you understand the principles of things, I think you could crush it wherever.
We got this last one, man. Last red flag is first few sessions are built around expensive package sales.
You don't sell a package unless you can help somebody. That's it, straight up. I think that's the easiest. You don't sell someone something that you don't think you can provide for them. If someone comes in and they legitimately, I would never tell someone to commit to a package if I don't know exactly how I'm going to help them. And I literally tell them like, hey, normally our spiel is like, this is what you're going to need for the next couple of months, but honestly, like, your case is a little bit more complicated and I want to go another session before I ask you to commit to working with us fully. I know during the call we had mentioned that you can get a discounted rate if you buy a bunch of sessions ahead of time, depending on the plan of care that we think you need. But currently right now I'm a bit unsure. I kind of want to see how you respond, but let's book a session next week. I'm gonna chew on this a little bit more and see if there's other things that I might be missing. And honestly, when I say that, people are like, "Thank you," like, "Thank you for being straight up with me." Does that happen all the time? No. As you get good at what you do, that happens maybe once every 3 to 4 months, 6 months. Um, but I like to live by integrity. If I think that I can help someone, I'm going to tell them that yes, I can help you. We're going to need to work together for this amount of time. You can either pay session by session, or you can save money by paying it all up front. It's completely up to you.
Yeah, and I'll offer maybe like a perspective just from like a sales and business standpoint, but especially as you guys start running ads, you have something that's basically called like what's your cost of acquisition, right? So how much does it cost you to acquire a new, whether it's a initial evaluation or to acquire a new customer that turns into like a plan of care. And so for us on average, if we're running, I think like on Facebook, our average cost of acquisition is around like $400 for us to acquire a customer. Right? And so if it costs us $400 to acquire a customer, right, and we're charging, so I think like the person who wrote this, I think their clinic, their thing is all about, hey, like every single session is 175. All right, that's super transparent. 175. That's all. That's every single session. That's it. And so if they decide to run ads, right, and their cost of acquisition is $400, you're only charging 175. So it basically take them. Let me see, 400 divided by 175. It would take them to their first 2.28 visits are all them just digging themselves out of the negative. So you're losing money to acquire a customer for the first 2.28 visits, and even after that, like you're just break even. So that is not a good business model at all. Every business that I know that runs paid ads, and again, like at scale, you can't just rely on word of mouth. You have to run paid ads, right? You need to offset the cost of acquisition so that you can basically run at least a 1 to 3 or 1 to 4x return on ad spend. So that you basically take that money and then you funnel into next month's ad spend. But if like what you're collecting on that first session or the first few sessions, right? If you're not pitching them until maybe visit 2 or visit 3, if that isn't larger than how much it costs you in ad spend or to pay a marketing agency to get this customer, then like that's a very, no offense, it's a very shitty business model. You're losing money every single time. Like you would get a customer. Like it's not an appropriate way to run a business. So you have to make sure, hey, you're profitable from ideally the first time you acquire a customer. And the only way to do that is to charge higher ticket. Now, if you aren't running paid ads, then you're not going to have a cost of acquisition, right? Which is totally fine, right? You can rely just on, either cold DMing or organic outreach on, Instagram, social media. You can rely just on word of mouth. You can do events and workshops, right? But then you become very like time heavy, right? Or very time poor because you're spending all your time doing all these things. And so it just depends on, what you want to do. If you want to charge a single visits, then it's totally fine. You probably shouldn't be running paid ads then. But if you don't run paid ads, like you're probably going to have a very hard time getting customers to want to come in your door at scale.
That's the mic drop right there. I think
So like when I immediately saw that, man, and I went on their website, I was like, yo, I know they are 100% not running paid ads, because if they were running paid ads and this was their model, they would be in the negative like within a couple months.
yeah, it's more nuanced, guys, and I never want people to feel like don't give up something before you even try it, right? Like give everything a shot in business. You know, there's so many times where I thought something wouldn't work. I ended up doing it and it ended up crushing it. There's some times where it didn't work. I stopped doing it, tried it again another week or a year or two later, and then boom, it starts working again. Right. So business is all about you're just constantly trying to discover, trying to grow, trying to build stuff. And when you listen to like advice that's like very like absolute, I don't know. Like it's just not helpful unless you understand the why behind somewhere.
Yeah.
But when you look at someone's like model, you know, I can understand why potentially these things would make sense. You know, like if I was charging below market here in New York City, sure, I'd list my prices. You know what I mean? But it's just different.
Cool. Well, hopefully, yeah, you guys found, our perspectives a little more helpful. Gives you guys some context as to, why we decide to operate a certain way and why we have things structured a little bit. But again, like Andy was saying, man, like at the end of the day, it's your guys' business. You guys do whatever you want, man. Test things out. But yeah, that's all I got, man.
Yeah. Agnostic to everything, you know, our opinions can change. I think right now it's like I don't know. Our group is crushing it. Everyone's doing well, and you know they're utilizing things that other people might say wouldn't work or red flags, whatever it is. I don't know. We wouldn't be offering it as a service if we couldn't help people. And it's the same thing, right? Like not every single person that walks through your door is someone that needs your service. So what better way to figure that out besides having a conversation? And if you want to disrespect one of the goats of marketing, that's Seth Godin 101, conversational marketing. All right, squad. Appreciate y'all. Keep getting after it.
Peace.
Peace.